All right, everyone. Welcome back to what is got to be one of the best Friday mornings we've had in a while. In regards to Masters, it's one of my favorite Friday mornings in a long, long time because we got some new info for BT30, which is officially called Three Glorious Warriors. And as you can see from the screen here, and if you guys have watched my videos and you've like heard me share my opinions about things like what I want, my favorite characters, this is a huge day because what we got was the official box art and we got the release event promos, which happened to be a new red Android 13 leader with a corresponding red battle card of Android 13 as well. A couple of videos ago, I did leaders and characters that needed more love for one reason or another, and I shoehorned Android 13 in there because I felt like he needed more. I feel like he's too prominent of a movie character to not have something more than what he's gotten so far in almost 30 sets of the game. And here we are. And funnily enough, for you guys who are collectors of things past cards, literally last night at 1 a.m. my time central, Premium Bandai dropped the new SH Figure Arts Super Android 13 figure, which is the first figure of Android 13 in like 25 years, something like that. I mean, it's been a very long time, and as a collector of me being collecting other things other than cards, I do have some figures of like coolers, Super 17 and stuff like that. So you want to talk about, if you're a fan of Android 13, the last 12ish hours have been absolutely amazing. But enough of that. Let's kind of get into the new information, the new cards, look into them, overview, and see what we're working with. Okay, so this is the box art for BT13. I'm going to move. Yeah, that's not good for the video. Oh, it didn't even move on the screen. Okay, never mind. I'm going to move my face over here, though, just so you guys can see what I wrote here. My bad. It's the Saiyan Trio. Look at that. It's the Saiyan Trio. I actually went back through some Discord messages with my locals here when we found out that the theme was teams of three. Of course, the little voice inside of my head said, this just screams the Saiyan Trio from the Super Android 13 movie against the likes of Android 13, 14, and 15. And I was basically met with like, hey, that's a little bit of a stretch. Like, this is months away. Play the new set. Why are you even worried about this? Well, if one of my favorite characters is potentially going to come in the next set, I'm going to be excited about it. And look what we have here. We have the Saiyan Trio. We have the 13 leader. Everything's great. Again, the set theme is teams of three. We already know some of the SCRs, like the Family Kamehameha is an SCR. There's an adult SS4 Daima Goku SCR, and then there's one featuring Bulma. So I'm not sure if like the other archetypes besides, Goku Daima and Saiyan Trio, or in Family Kamehameha, if they decide to do that after having Second Coming Broly, this past set. That kind of all makes sense. So again, easy one to kind of foresee with the theme. And then for those of you guys who don't know, this is the last set where box toppers are going to be the energy markers, which we've had the last two, right? Because this set brings us up through the current sets. Because 2 sets ago was 1 through 9 or 10. Then this next one was 11 through 20. And then this is going to be 21 through, I think, 30. So I believe this art is also going to be amongst the box toppers. I'm not entirely sure, but that just kind of makes the most sense. Okay, moving on to the actual exciting things. This is the release event leader, and last set we had Frieza. Set before that we had White Beerus. So this is red 13 on the front. Cool art. Him just about to transform. You've got the 2 bombs here going into his chest. You've got the 2 chips about to go into his forehead. Love this art first and foremost. Now getting into the effect. He's got a activate main skill only, no auto, and this is once per turn. You can add a card from your hand to your Z energy, so similar to like Oceanus or Nova, and being able to start building Z energy from the get-go, which we've seen is very, very powerful in terms of being able to get stuff out of your Z deck as quick as possible. So you add a card from your hand to Z energy. You can take up to 1 life, which is great. Self-awakening is always good. And then you top 5 from your deck to add 1 red android card to your hand, then shuffle. So it's any red android. So this is all your little guys, your boss monsters, any android super combo, so like android 20, all searchable. Absolutely fantastic. It's kind of similar to the old red Android 13 leader that was the Zero Super Commuter, excuse me. So huge. And then its awakening condition is just when you're at 5 or less life, draw 1, restand 1. Solid. It's kind of what it's been for a while. They've kind of shied to more draw 2 leaders, but a restand, draw 1 is still welcomed very much in the current game. So fantastic front, gets you going. And you can kind of tell from the effect of it's forcing you to, not forcing you, but allows you to like Z charge immediately, is that you're probably going to want to play something from the Z deck. There's probably going to be something from the Z deck. It is not one of the 2 promos, that we're getting in the release event. So it probably says like a hint of what's coming actually in the set. This is the backside. The art is fantastic. I'm a little peeved that I expected 13 to be in the set, but he's not going to get an SLR. So I am pretty sad about that. At the same time, we're still going to get a gold leader. So gold, trimming on it, gold words, gold power level, stuff like that. I mean, it's still good. I mean, it's fine enough, right? You could simply not have ever even gotten a card, but here we are. We get a gold leader. I got to be happy about that. Obviously, you can't have the Saiyan Trio without 13. Duh. And look at that. I did the words twice. Bummer. Anyway, draws on play of a red Android card once per turn and then switches your Unison to active mode. So we love drawing non-attack wise with a once per turn because it means you get to draw on your turn. It means you get to draw on your opponent's turn, right? We saw this with Nova, and why it's so strong is there's just ways to proc it on both sides. Lucifer, which remains to be seen just how strong of a deck that is, but like it helps the floor of a deck when they're able to draw on both players' turns. I don't know about you, but that is very, very strong. And then, of course, you got this clause of, additionally, if it's your opponent's turn, choose one of your Unisons and switch it to active mode. Without knowing any more, just on this sentence, it's probably going to be a deck that wants to rely on a Unison of some kind. And then the fact that you get to, on your opponent's turn, switch it to active mode means that there's got to be a reason for it. And one that can come off the top of your head is that the Unison has blocker, which would be a great thing. Being able to then attack with it offensively, get some pressure that way, and then knowing you could potentially restand it at least once and block with it at least once is good. This also means that you can leave your blocker Unison up if it is this specific card, and then you could block with it twice because you block with it, play an Android at least at some point on your opponent's turn, restand it for a potential second block. So all great. Its second auto is another once per turn that reads when you're red Unison with a specified cost of 3 attacks. Okay, so cost of 3. So this gives us more insight into what we're potentially getting or what the deck wants to do. So Unison cost of 3 attacks. Play up to 1 red Android with an energy cost of 1 from your drop in rest mode. Then choose it to one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, and it gets -10 for the turn. So cool that there's some free play here, right? It's not play with its skills negated, so usually 1-drops are cantrips and searchers and stuff. So you're getting free value this way. You're drawing on each person's turn, and then when your Unison attacks, if you have a 1-cost Android in your drop, you can play it. That means the red 13 uninvited guest, which is a top 5 for a 3 or less Android, is just free value. You're attacking and playing it, and you're also playing it from the drop, mind you, not the deck or the hand or anything. If it was specifically the hand, that would suck. But you're playing it from a different area that's not the hand. So you're getting a card on board plus the further card of the search. And if you don't have anything in hand that you want to play or can play, for whatever reason, the second auto also procs your leader. So if you haven't played an Android card at all this turn, you swing, play the 13, let's just say, and then you can draw, and then top 5 or top 5 then draw, whatever you want to do it. Normally you would draw and then top 5 to help filter through the deck. And then you get to minus something 10k through barrier. So the second part here is, remains to be seen just how good it is, because 10k like gets nothing, right? 10k is really not that big of a deal when everything's 20, 25, 30. Obviously, it helps get rid of pesky cantrips or silver bullets for whatever reason, or small things with barrier that do provide value turn after turn, as long as they remain on board. This also makes bigger things easier to hit with other cards that minus. So if you, for whatever reason, don't have 40k minus for, let's just say, an opposing player's SCR, this will get it down to 30, and then you can play like New Broly SR or something that minuses 30, right, and finishes the job. Or if you've got 2 instances of barrier removal minusing and it only gets up so far, then this helps, kind of get it within range. So I think the least impressive part about this is actually the -10 through barrier because of just, it's not going to do much on its own. You got to like pair and combo other cards with it. But the fact that there's free play here, there's drawing on both turns, they're switching in Unison to active mode for whatever reason. Like, this does a lot of stuff, and I like to think that the more it does, the better it can potentially be based on what we end up seeing later on in the set and stuff like that. For what it's worth, before I actually forget, the set comes out March 27th. Now, this is great because it's a little earlier than expected, because the last set came out very early, almost immediately. I think it was January 2nd. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But normally there's like a 3-month wait. Well, the last set was pushed a bit further, and then it doesn't look like they pushed this release, any further down the road. So it's actually less than 3 months. Usually it's always been around 3 months or more. This is less than 3 months between sets, which is absolutely fantastic. Moving on to the battle card. Okay, so this is Android 13 War Demon. This is, of course, obviously the corresponding battle card that further leans into this idea of minusing in the deck. It is a worse King's Vegeta imposing presence on a stick. Might as well go to the effect, obviously. Activate main battle, so huge. And also an activate main battle, so you can play it on either person's turn to get to proc the draw on your leader, right? When you play it, it's just pay 1 red if your leader's a red Android card and you have 2 or more energy, so it's online very early. You get to draw 1 for its own effect, play this card, and add up to 1 card from your life to your hand, and this card gains barrier for the turn. So another Self-Awakener early if you want to get down to 5 as quick as possible. Helps with if your opponent's trying to stall you out, because it's not an alternate awakening, it's just 5 or less, right? So we do want to get down to 5. It has Deflect Auto. When this card is played or one of your opponent's cards attacks, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, and it gets -5k for the turn. Again, a small minus. These things can add up, though. One thing you should notice is there's no limit 1. There's no once per turn on this auto. So the turn it's played, it's just the once, because you can only play it once, obviously. You get a -5k, pair it with your leader effect, minusing some 15s, make some stuff smaller, sure. But defensively, and again, I don't know if I said it, the card gains barrier for the turn it's played. So this sounds like you want to play it always on your opponent's turn. Probably the first thing they do. Because if you play it on offensively, it just has barrier until the end of your turn. So what did you really do or accomplish this, right? This is probably always going to be on your opponent's turn. But you play it on your opponent's turn, it gains barrier, and so if they want to keep attacking or doing anything, they have to minus a battle card 5k each time. So it's not like the strongest Floodgate, it's just kind of annoying because it pairs well with the other older red Android 14 to 15 cards from previous sets. Defeating the Demon, right? Being able to minus something 20 on a counterplay, and then they swing with said card, and then you play this, and it's, maybe you finish the -25 or whatever off, because 20 plus the 5 here. And then if they want to keep attacking with anything, you're going to keep minusing 5. So you threaten your opponent to, do you want to keep pressuring me, or do you want me to slowly maybe pick off your board when you don't want me to? So I don't think this is the strongest card in the world. I think it does some really cool things. And we'll just have to see when we get the rest of the set, start building this deck, how much it really adds to it. But it's a name. It's a card that you can play on your opponent's turn to proc your leader draw on their turn. And again, works synergistically with some old things, which we are going to go over. So, old cards that work with the new leader. These first 3, the 14, 15, and the dual name, all have the same thing, the ability to be played on either person's turn. They've got an activate main battle that they essentially read the same way. If your leader is a red Android 13 card, and you have 2 or more energy, which is great, early for us, and a red, for the 14, it is if you have a red 15 in your Z energy. For the 15, it's if you have a red 14 in your Z energy, and the dual name is if you have a red 13 in your Z energy. So you do have to have the corresponding name in your Z energy, which hopefully is easy to do because of the leader's effect, right? But for the 14, 15, and the dual name, the effect is essentially your opponent may choose 2 of their battle cards and have them get -20 for the turn. If they don't, you draw 1 and play this card from your hand. So here's the thing with this. If your opponent chooses not to do to minus 2 cards, 20k, this comes into play. It draws 1 for its own effect, and then you draw 1 for your leader effect. Okay, very good. If they choose to minus 2 cards, 20k, they're able to do that. This card just returns to your hand. So you don't lose this card. It doesn't go to drop or anything. That's what's really cool. You don't lose anything. It's just you pay 1 and reveal it, right? And so if it comes back to your hand, yeah, you didn't get a body on board, but you did just get rid of 2 of your opponent's cards, or at least minus them quite a bit. Let's see. So one of the things also with these old ones is if your opponent simply doesn't have 2 or more battle cards on play to even try to minus them 20k, you can force these cards into play. So if you don't even want to give your opponent the choice, try to do it when they don't have 2 battle cards in play. Force the draw to yada yada. Now, the 14, I think, is the better one to play in this deck because if you're going to be playing stuff on your opponent's turn, this 14 has blocker. And its auto is just if you have a red 15 in your Z energy at the end of the turn, switch this card to active mode. So if you do play it offensively, it can be a 15k poke that then it restands. But again, playing this on your opponent's turn to proc the extra draw, put a blocker down, so then it's like one more thing for them to worry about and have to get rid of, I think is just fine. The 15 here, though, is when it's attacking, it gets 5k for the battle. So it's a 20k swing instead of a 15, but then there's no like defensive purpose for it, right? And so if this deck wants to be able to play on both sides, I think the 14's better as a card to play on opponent's turn. And truly during your turn when you're trying to do anything offensively, there's better things to play than this 15. So in this deck specifically, I think you run the 14 over the 15. But again, it's going to be up to you. Now for this dual name specifically, it is a 15k dual attack. So for pressure reasons, this is like a good card to play. The problem is that you don't draw when this card is played. They tried to balance it with it's a double name for card effects. It's dual attack and it has deflect. So it has all these things that help make it a better card, but then they took the draw off of it because then they felt if you did draw with this card, it would be way too strong. And this was back in BT, I want to say 19 or 20 something. That was apparently going to be too strong of an effect. So they kind of neutered it that way. Either way, it is a name, a dual name for multiple effects. So maybe you add 1, maybe you add 2, whatever. It's just an option. I'm not going to tell you it's the best. Then there is this free negate from the old Red 13 deck. So this is a 15k critical body that when your leader is an Android, a 13 Z leader, and your life is at 3 or less, you can free play this negate, right? You can Z awaken into the old Z leader because you're a Red 13 leader. That's all it asks for to be able to Z lead. The problem is if you Z awaken, then you lose all the effects, of course, on the actual leader, which is kind of the whole purpose of the deck. The effects of the Z leader, which we'll go over, are fine. They're fine. But it does kind of change how you play the game at that point. So this 17, you know, you think it's going to be something you can play on your opponent's turn, but it doesn't get the draw because you're the Z lead, so you lose that effect, right? So it's just an option. It is just an option. I'm not going to tell you it's great or you should, or even if you should play the Z leader at all. But it is just an option. Moving on to other stuff. So the first 2 here are the anniversary box cards from, I want to say, 2 boxes or so. The other 2 are the 13s from the old 13 leader from BT 1920, whatever it was. So this one on the far left is a dual name that when it's comboed, you get to take a red android from your drop of any energy cost and add it to your Z energy with its skills negated for the turn. This is huge because you can combo with this card, Z charge, and then at the end of the battle, this card is Z charged. So this is a 2 Z charge card combo. It's awesome. It's fantastic. It's exactly what the deck needed, because it's very reliant on having a bunch of Z energy. And then its activate main is actually add this card to your Z energy from the battle area, essentially, if you played it for 1 or you played it from any other effect. Play up to one red Android 13 card with a cost of 1 from your drop, meaning it's this uninvited guest. So when you do that, again, and it's not skills negated, so when this 13 lands, you're going to top 5 for a 3 or less Android. This is so much value. This is just so much value. And then, of course, that 13 using its effect can go into the bigger 7-cost 13s, which we obviously see here, which is a heck of a card. Sucks that it's a 1 plus 10k, but it is a very good card when it lands and your opponent happens to not have an answer for it. The second to the left here, Android 13 Unleashed Power. This is the second anniversary box card. This is just really good to play and let it sit on your board. You're not attacking with it. You're just gaining value because it's a 15k barrier. You can play it immediately if you have 2 or more energy. And then its first activate main is a limit 1. You can choose 1 red Android 13 battle card and place in your battle layer. Place up to 1 red Android card with an energy cost of 1 from your deck, and put it under the chosen card, then shuffle. So it's deck thinning, and it stacks underneath either this 13, the big 13, which combos when it attacks, or any of these guys. Then its second activate battle is you can use up to 1 red Android card with an energy cost of 2 or less from under one of your red Android 13 cards in a combo. That is not a once per turn effect, by the way. So if you happen to have multiple 13s out with cards underneath them, you can use this effect as many times as you want or can and combo all those cards out on different attacks to apply that much more pressure. So this is awesome. It sucks that it's a limit 1, which means if you play the second one, you're not tucking under this one and then tuck one under the second one and gaining that way. This is unfortunately just like a tuck once per turn for 1 copy. So it doesn't add up all that fast, and you're never really having the opportunity to combo multiple stuff with a second activate battle because you're always kind of doing it as you go. All these cards are great. I think to a degree, all of them probably end up in the deck. I think the one that probably ends up in least amount of decks is the 15k 7 cost, just because it's 1 energy in a red deck that's like never attacking. But depending on what we see and how the deck kind of like feels like it wants to play, this deck might come in handy as just a resource engine you play almost immediately. If you're not trying to kill your opponent as quick as possible, it's not one of those aggro decks, then you land this card and you just gain value with it time over time. And if your opponent ever wants to get rid of it, they have to waste barrier removal, which more than likely they want to use on something else. So if this eats up that kind of removal, it's kind of a win for you. Other stuff. So this is the Z deck. This is the core absorption Z extra that they got in that same anniversary box that lets you play out the 7 cost 13 a turn earlier. This is just great because it can do the same thing. If your leader's a red 13, it does all the same stuff. When you play it turn 1, which you can because of the effect, right? Literally turn 1 going first, Z charge, pay an energy, get this out there. It gets E-Dance online. It gets your threat of the 7 cost online. And especially if you're going first, you can then play the 7 cost on your turn 3 going first. Your opponent has 2 energy. They better hope they have a floodgate or something because otherwise you're about to go crazy. But you do, when this is played, put a card from your hand into your drop, and then top 5 for any red Android card. Okay, so it sets up further plays for other effects down the line, filters your hand. It's great. The thing is here is that if you play the 7 cost via this core absorption effect, it does go to your Z energy at the end of the turn. So you do lose it. That's the kind of the trade-off of playing it much earlier. You do lose it, but then you still get a Z energy, which is what the deck wants to do. Then we're going over to the Z leader here, which again is not for this deck. It can be played with the deck, but it does kind of change again what the leader wants to do. You pay one generic when your life is at 4 or less on a red 13 leader. Okay, great. When this card attacks, you can play up to 1 red Android 14 or 15 card, both red and with an energy cost of 1 from your hand or drop. So it plays it in active mode, meaning you get a 5k combo piece on board. And then since you're the Z leader, you can play out the 13, which top 5s, right? You could, or excuse me, this is only 14 or 15. I need to correct that. You could play the Mechanical Assailants, which are the 1 cost from the old deck, which read when you're a Z leader, you can draw 1 instead of having to go get the corresponding 14 or 15, depending on what you played. So if you do go into, if your plan is to go into the Z leader, you do play some of those guys because that's just 5k on board plus another card in hand. It's good value. It still has the activate battle of place a 13, 14, and 15 named card from your Z energy into your drop to draw 1, and then this card gets 5k and double for the turn. So this is activate battle once per turn, which meaning that offensively you can become a 20 double, defensively you can come a base 20 for the turn on top of the other, red bean effects essentially that the color has gotten recently to kind of become a base 20, 25, what have you, to help survive certain turns if you don't want to E-Dance, don't have an E-Dance, which I think is fine enough. But I think the leader wants it to be the actual leader for this new deck. So I don't know how often you go into this. Maybe it's a bursting rage situation. Maybe it's just you need the double to end the game. It's always a threat there, right? It's always a threat. If it's to simply end the game with a double, then you can Z Awaken, go into it, do the effect and stuff like that. So there's a place for it. I'm just not so sure how often you're going to be playing it. So as we mentioned earlier, the new leader specifies when a unison with a cost of 3 attacks, it does its thing. These are the best 3-cost red unisons that we have currently. Now, I say currently because we don't know what's coming in the set. Blue Frieza from this past set, the release event promo, didn't have anything in the set that was like, this is specifically for that leader. It just didn't. It had the third form Frieza on the as part of its release promo kit, which is a good card, but that's essentially the only card it got that like does what the leader at least says, you know, the deck wants to do. So, and until we find out what that whatever this 3-cost unison is, these are your best options. A lot of people immediately went to Jiren because your leader and other cards are minusing. Jiren does the same thing, right? When your opponent plays a battle card or a unison card, you may choose that card and it gets -10 for the turn. If you do, negate the skill for the turn. Great. It is a 20k base with a +1 that just gives it double strike. So it's a good pressure card as long as it survives. It's a 20k, which means that it's going to be harder for people to remove. I think that's awesome. I think this will be fun. If the deck ends up wanting to play this Jiren Unison, like it ends up being the best option, that's very cool. This got an anniversary box gold alt art some years ago, which people would love to absolutely break out and play again. Plus, there's a gold version of this art, actually, which might be the sickest one. So tons of options. The second one here is the Gohan Unison from the Pan Reboot starter deck, which also makes a lot of sense for this deck. It has blocker, which we talked about was kind of the skill that would go a long way on whatever the specified 3-cost unison is. It's got an auto of, at the end of your turn, switch this card to active mode. Even better, because it means you can swing with this card, restand it at the end of your turn, and then still have the opportunity to double block. That's a ton of value, right? It's just a 15k, unfortunately. But if this can double block and eat 2 attacks, 2 like huge attacks, right? That's the way you'd sequence it. Then huge. It's fantastic. This has a +1 auto that when you use a mono red battle card in a combo, you get to draw. And then additionally, if a battle card with a cost of 20k or more is in your battle area, this card gains double strike for the turn. This effect's also good because